only prayer book. The only reason I'm pointing that out to you is all the prayer books have all of the prayers we're going to be looking at, but some of the prayer books have page numbers in italics. So if I call out a page number and you say, wait, it's not on that page, then I'm probably referring in your book to the number in italics. And if you don't have a prayer book with numbers in italics, just forget I said anything. So Madeline will be leading us in worship. She will be taking her place as a Jewish adult, teaching us, leading us, reading with us. If you know the words, feel free to join in. And as she takes this role, there is no symbol that better represents it, no ritual symbol than the talit, the prayer shawl whose fringes, the tzitzit, represent the commandments in the Torah, the sacred scroll that Madeline will read from a little later. And so when a Jew receives a talit and puts on a talit, literally, not just figuratively, they are wrapping themselves in a Jewish life. And so to lead us in worship, she will be receiving her talit from her mom and dad, Eric and Julia, and we call them up. And if you'd like to follow on, the blessing that she will be reading can be found on page 289, the blessing at the bottom over receiving a talit.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu l'hitatef bat tzitzit.
Amen. Our service begins before Madeline leads us with a section known by the words Birchot HaShachar, which means early morning blessings. For those of you who are runners or exercise, you know that if you just run into something, it doesn't work out so well eventually. Stretching is important. The rabbis who set the Jewish prayer service hundreds and hundreds of years ago from the many different prayers the Jews said orally, put together a service that had a series of sections. If you're a visitor, you're going to say it just seems like a whole bunch of Hebrew. But in fact, think of the Jewish prayer service as a series of steps culminating when we take the Torah from the Ark. And so these early morning prayers awaken us before we get to the center of our service. And they do it with prayers for our body, our soul, prayers of gratitude to awaken us inside and out before we get to the central prayers she'll help us lead. And so we turn to page 290, and there we find Ma Tovu, these words from the Torah.
Ma tovu ohelecha Yaakov, ohelecha Yaakov, mishkanotecha Yisrael. Ma tovu ohelecha Yaakov, ohelecha Yaakov, mishkanotecha Yisrael. Vani berov chastecha avo veitecha eshtachave el hakol kodshecha beirotecha ma tovu ohalecha Yaakov, ohalecha Yaakov, mishkanotecha Yisrael. Ma tovu ohalecha Yaakov, ohalecha Yaakov, mishkanotecha Yisrael.
Page 291 together. Blessed are you, Adonai our God, sovereign of the universe. With divine wisdom you have made our bodies, combining veins, arteries, and vital organs into a finely balanced network. Wondrous maker and sustainer of life. Were one of them to fail, how well we are aware, we would lack the strength to sustain life before you. Blessed are you, Adonai, source of our health and strength. Baruch atah Adonai, rofeh chol basar, umafli la'asot. Beginning on page 293, we have several pages of Nisim B'chol Yom, prayers for the miracle of every day. We chant the first half of each of these in Hebrew, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, and the second half with the line in English.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who has given the mind the ability to distinguish day from night. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who opens the eyes of the blind. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who frees the captive. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who lifts up the fallen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who stretches the earth over the waters. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who strengthens our steps. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who clothes the naked. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who gives strength to the weary.
We turn to page 296. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu, la'asok b'divrei Torah. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to engage with words of Torah. We continue on page 312. You can actually see on that page a little tiny bold Chatzi Kaddish. This prayer book adds the different prayers that show you that we are moving through different sections of the service. Shema B'Birchotecha, the Shema and its blessings, which offer some words from the Torah that guide us as Jews. And the Chatzi Kaddish is a prayer that tells us we are moving from one section of the Jewish service to another. On page 312, we continue with the Chatzi Kaddish.
Yitkadav veyitkadash shemei Rabbah, v'yamad divrach hirotei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayedecho beit Yisrael, bagala uv'izman kariv, v'maru amen. Yehi Shemei Rabbah Mevora, Le'olam Olam Me'omaya, Yitbarach, V'yishtabach, V'yitpa'ar, V'yitromam, V'yitnaseh, V'yitadar, V'yitaleh, V'yitalal, Shemet Kodesha Brihu, Leila Min Kol Berchata V'shirata, Tushbechata v'nechemata, damiran b'yoma, v'maru, amen. Please rise. Barechu et Adonai HaMevorah.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. Praise Adonai, to whom praise is due forever. Praised be Adonai, to whom praise is due, now and forever. The world is sunlight, restoring the soul, rejoicing the heart, bringing light to the eyes, more welcomed than gold, a Torah from heaven. I have no light to give the morning. My Torah, my special human gift, is words. As I bring my words forth from silence, welcome them, you who redeems the sun from darkness. Baruch atah Adonai Yotzer Hamorot. We continue on the next page. Together. God of all creation, you are blessed with each soul's breath. Your greatness and goodness fill the world. Knowledge and understanding surround your glory. Holiest are you among the holy, seated in glorious splendor, radiating purity and justice, bestowing loving kindness. In knowledge and understanding, you created the heavenly lights, giving them strength and power to bring light into the world. Full of splendor, they radiate brightness. The world is warmed by their flames. We rejoice in their comings and goings, reflecting the will of their Creator. Glory and honor they give to you, glowing praises to your rule. You call to the sun, and it gives forth light. You set the patterns of the moon. You are honored throughout the heavens with songs of glory and praise. Ahava Rabba Ahavtanu, Adonai Eloheinu, Chem Lagidol Avitera, Chamalta Aleinu, Ba'avor Avotenu, Ve'imotenu, Shebatchu Vecha, Shebatchu Vecha, Avotenu Ve'imotenu, Vatlamdem Chukechayim, Kein Techonenu Ulamdenu, Hamrachem, Rachem Aleinu, V'tein bilibenu lehavin ulhaskil lishmoa, lilmod ulilamed, lishmor velasot, ulekayem et kol divrei Talmud Toratecha be'ahava, v'ha'erenenu b'toratecha, v'dabek libeinu b'mitzvotecha, v'yached levavenu li'ahava u'yira et shemecha, v'lo nivosh, v'lo nikalem, v'lo nikashel, le'olam va'ed, ki v'shem kodshecha, hagadol v'hanora batachnu, nagila v'nismecha, nagila v'nismecha b'shuatecha. Responsively. O God, inspiration and guide for all, you have spoken in 1,000 tongues for us to hear. In every land and every age, your children have heard you and imagined you in separate ways. And yet, O God, you are one, unifier of humanity.
We give thanks for the sages and teachers who bring us understanding of your will. Gratefully we recall the lawgivers and prophets, the psalmists and sages of Israel. And joyfully we remember that from the dawn of Israel's life, we would turn to you and find purpose.
May the teachings of our ancestors live on in our minds, and their passion for righteousness stir our hearts. Help us to live so that our daily conduct reveals the beauty and wisdom of your truth. Baruch atah Adonai, habocher ba'amo Yisrael ba'ahava. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Hear, O Israel, Adonai is our God, Adonai is one. Baruch Shem Kivod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed. Blessed is God's glorious majesty forever and ever. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kivod Malhuto Leolam Vaed. You may be seated. Ve'ahavita et Adonai Elohecha bechol levavcha uvechol nafshecha uvechol me'odecha ve'hayu advarim ha'ele asher anohi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam b'shiftecha b'veitecha uvlechtecha v'derech uv'shochbecha uv'kumecha וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיהם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם. We will continue on page 321. Sing the song of men and women, joined in understanding and respect, the song of God's miracles, an earth protected and cherished, a gift for our children and the generations to come, the song of a land once ravished by war, now quiet and content, her soldiers home to leave no more, the song of a world redeemed, the song of peace. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi chamocha nehedar b'kodesh, nora tehilot osef eleh, nora tehilot osef eleh. Shira chadasha shibhu ge'ulim, leshimcha al sfat hayam, yahad kulam hodu, vehimlechu ve'ameru, Adonai imlo le'olam vad, Adonai imlo le'olam vad. Please rise.
Page 323.
Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi yagi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Vekonei Hakol, Vezoher Chasdei Avot Ve'imahot, Umevi Geula Livnei V'neihem, Lema'an Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer Umoshe Umagen, Baruch atah Adonai,
Magen Avraham ve'ezrat Sarah. Ata gibor leolam Adonai mechaye hakol ata rav leoshia. Mechakel chayim bechesed mechaye hakol berachamim rabim somech noflim verofech olim umatir asurim umkayem emunato lishenei afar michamocha bal gevurot umido melech melech memit umechaye umatzmiach Yeshua v'ne'eman ata l'chayot hakol baruch ata Adonai mechaye hakol.
Together, you are the open door that beckons me in. Peeking around the doorframe, I begin to enter into your glory. You move me forward, O Eternal, to step beyond self-made boundaries. Lift my foot over the threshold that I might abide with you. In the house of the Eternal, I found my questions, waiting to be posed. They filled me with wonder. Sit with me, eternal teacher. Encourage my seeking. As I fill my hours with your mitzvot, so shall I be filled. Send me through your door, stretching up to honor your name, sharing out this wonder, enriching myself in the giving.
Nekadesh et shimcha ba'olam, keshem shemakdishim oto bishmei marom, kakatuv al yad neviecha, v'karazel zeh ve'amar, kadosh, 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 Adonai tzevaot, melochol haaretz, kevodo, adir adirenu Adonai, Adonenu ma'adir shimcha bechol haaretz, baruch kevod Adonai mimkomo. Echad hu Eloheinu, hu Avinu, hu Malkeinu, hu Moshienu vehu Yashmienu, berachamav leinei kol chai. Ani Adonai Elohechem, yimloch Adonai leolam, Elohai Zion, ledor vador, hallelujah. Ledor vador nagid God lecha, ula netzach netzachim kedushat chanagdish, v'shivchacha Eloheinu mipinu lo yamush leolam va'ed. Baruch ata Adonai ha'el hakadosh.
You may be seated. V'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. V'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. Beini uvein b'nei Yisrael oti leolam, oti leolam. V'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam.
כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
We turn to page 330 and we read together in English. On this Shabbat day, as you graciously receive our prayers, help us to hear your call. Grant us enough health to fulfill our duties and the compassion we need to attend to others. Teach us humility that we may perceive our own faults, and grant us the wisdom to be forgiving of others. Give us the courage to be true to our highest selves and the charity to see the best in those around us. Give us patience enough not to become discouraged, hope enough to overcome all fears for the future, and faith enough to know your presence. O source of blessing, look upon us, favor upon us. May our blessings be acceptable to you. We praise you, Adonai, whom alone we serve in reverence. Baruch atah Adonai, she'odcha levadcha v'yirana avod. Take a few moments, either looking around the room or closing your eyes or reflecting on this wonderful, joyous Shabbat, some time for your own silent, private prayers.
Acceptable to you, Adonai, 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 my rock and my redeemer.
We turn to page 494 for Seder Kriyat Torah. Oh, no, wrong. My mistake. That's the festival. Hang on one moment. Just a few pages too far. That's right. We turn to page 364 for the service for the reading for Torah on Shabbat, actually 362, Seder Kriyat Torah LeShabbat. As you can see, it's another series of services within the service. When we take out the Torah, when we carry our most sacred book. A couple words about the Torah if you've never seen a Torah scroll. What you'll see carried through the congregation by Madeline is actually the dressed Torah. That's not actually what she's reading from, that's inside. But we adorn the Torah with covers and crowns to say, in a sense, this is our most special sacred object. For those of you, Jewish, Christian, Muslim, whatever, who remember back from Sunday school, you'll remember that the Jews received the Torah on Mount Sinai, whether that's literally or figuratively, whether it's edited, whether Moses handed it to us or wrote it down. Different Jews believe different things, but the fact remains that the Torah is our oldest, most sacred book. And while it was not given to us like this, the words remain the same. So a Torah written on parchment, prepared by hand by a scribe known as a sofer, who creates his or her own ink, who uses a feather to prepare his or her own pen, who writes a Torah by hand, writes that scroll in the same way it has been written for thousands of years. Now, what's in the Torah? Not the entire Bible, not just from the beginning of the world, beginning with the creation of the world in the book of Genesis, and ending with the death of Moses at the end of the book of Deuteronomy. And while there are other sacred texts in Judaism, no other books in our canon contain that power. So those 5 books are written in the scrolls in the sanctuary. And when Madeline walks around the synagogue and parades the Torah as a sign of kavod, of respect and honor, and then takes it out and reads from it, she will do it as young men have for centuries. I say young men because women have been reading from the Torah for only a few decades. And so we live in a wonderful time where she can take her place with men and women, where she can be a teacher of Torah, read from those words in the same way others have throughout time. And so as we prepare to take the Torah from the ark, we're going to call up her grandparents, Kathy and Chuck McCurdy. We're going to call up Fran and Mickey Yorkston to open the ark doors, and we're going to ask her parents and her grandmother to pass the Torah through the generations to her. We ask the congregation to please rise. Generation to generation, Judaism has survived and thrived because grandparents to parents to children, aunts and uncles, cousins and friends all have taken the responsibility of carrying Torah on their shoulders and all that it represents. And so today, too, this Torah gets passed through the generations from your grandmother, who was raised, but at a time when girls did not have Bat Mitzvah. And so it carries a special power to your mom and dad and to you, so that you can carry its teachings to another generation.
Baruch Shenatan Torah, Torah. Baruch Shenatan Torah, Torah. Le'amo Yisrael b'kedushato. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu. Adonai Echad, Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo, Gadlu Adonai iti, Uneromemav Shemo Yachtav, Lecha Adonai Hagidula V'Hagivura, Hatiferet V'Hanetzach V'Chavod, Ki Ho B'Shamayim U'Va'aretz, Ki Ho B'Shamayim U'Va'aretz, Lecha Adonai Hamamlecha, V'Yamid Na'aseh Lecho Lerosh. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu, Ve'ishachavu Lehar Kodsho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu, Ve'ishachavu Lehar Kodsho. Ki Kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romemu. Ki Kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romemu. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu, Ve'ishachavu Lehar Kodsho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu, Ve'ishachavu Lehar Kodsho.
Please be seated. Just so you know, especially we might have some people, I know we have some people watching at home, so if they wish to follow, we will be reading from the book of Genesis, and we will be reading from the Torah portion known as Miketz, which is the end. It's not the end, but that's what Miketz means. I'll say more about that later. And Madeline will be telling us more about this dream and this interpretation that Joseph has and shares with Pharaoh. I'm giving you that, but I'm not saying any more because she has a great teaching about it later. But for those who are following at home and want to look, our Torah portion is in the book of Genesis, Bereshit. It is chapter 41, verse 25. Madeline's Aliyah to the Torah. That means she is called up to the Torah. We call her up by her Hebrew name, Ta'amod, Habuchorah, Habat Mitzvah, Miriam Bat Aviva Ve'erik, Likro et HaTorah.
Barechu et Adonai Hamavorah.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Leolam Vaed.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. Vayomer Yosef el Paro, Chalom Paro, Echad hu, et Asher ha'Elohim, Osei higid lefaro, Sheva parot hatovot, Sheva shanim heina, v'sheva hashibolim hatovot, Sheva shanim heina, chalom echad hu, v'sheva haparot, harakot v'haraot, haolot acharehen, sheva shanim heina, v'sheva hashibolim harekot, shedufot hakadim yihiu, sheva shnei ra'av. Hu hadavar asher dibarti el paro, asher ha'Elohim osei hera et paro. Hine sheva shanim ba'ot sava gadol bechol eretz Mitzrayim v'kamu sheva shnei ra'av acharehen v'nishkach kol hasava be'eretz Mitzrayim v'chila hara'av et haaretz ve'lo yivada hasava ba'aretz mipnei hara'av hahu acharechen ki chaved hu me'od ve'al hishanot hachalom el paro pa'amayim ki nachon hadavar meim ha'Elohim o memaher ha'Elohim la'asoto. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chaye olam nata betochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
As we prepare to dress and lift the Torah, we call up your uncle, David McCurdy, and we ask the congregation to rise. Zot Torah asher sam Moshe lifnei bnei Yisrael. All peace. Please be seated. We will be continuing with the reading of Haftarah. This is an additional reading from the Bible. This custom, we think, dates back to a period around the time of the Assyrians. Just happens to have a connection to Hanukkah potentially, in which Jews were forbidden to read from Torah, and additional readings from the Bible were picked to connect them to this Shabbat. We kept the custom, and so we have an additional reading that isn't found in the Torah. Today's Haftarah reading comes from the book of Samuel. It's a story many of you may have heard from Sunday school, wherever you grew up, where Samuel's is presented with Solomon, rather. It's the book of Samuel. Solomon is presented with two women who both claim to have the same baby, and they argue over the baby. And a tough reading for some moms, but Solomon, knowing what he's doing, says, we'll just cut it in half and we'll figure out who the mom is. And of course, it's a bit of a risk, but the real mom says, no, forget it, I don't want the child. That story has been told in many, many religious schools. But in fact, the story is meant to show the wisdom of Samuel, of understanding what is in people's hearts and what motivates them. And so the Haftarah reading is in the book of Samuel. If you wish to follow along in the blessing before and after reading Haftarah, you can find that on page 372.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar b'nvi'im tovim v'ratza v'divreihem hana'emarim be'emet Baruch atah Adonai habocher b'Torah u'v'Moshe avdo u'v'Yisrael amo u'v'nvi'eh ha'emet v'tzedek Vayan Amelech Vayomer Tanula et hayalut hachai v'hamet lo temitu hi imo vayishmeu chol Yisrael et hamishpat asher shafat hamelech vayireu mipnei hamelech ki ra'u ki chochmat Elohim b'kirbo la'asot mishpat vayehi hamelech shalomo melech al kol Yisrael.
The king said, one says, the live one is my son, and the dead one is yours. And the other says, no, your son is dead, and mine is alive. So the king said, fetch me a sword. They brought a sword into the king's presence. Then the king said, cut the living child in two, then give half to the one, half to the other. But the real mother was churning with compassion for her son, so she pleaded with the king, "Please, my lord, give her the living child. Whatever you do, don't kill him." But the other said, "No, it will be neither mine nor yours. Cut it in two." The king spoke up, On no account kill the child. Give him to the first woman. She is the real mother." When Israel heard of the decision of the king, they held him in awe, seeing that he had within him divine wisdom to do justice.
Baruch ata Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, Sor kol haolamim, Tzadik bechol hadorot, Ha'el ha'ne'eman, Ha'omer ve'oseh, Hamidaber umkayem, Shekol dvarav emet v'tzedek, Al ha'Torah ve'al ha'avodah ve'al hanvi'im ve'al yom ha'shavat hazeh shenatata lanu Adonai Eloheinu likdusha v'limnuha lechavod ultifaretz al ha'kol Adonai Eloheinu Anachnu modim lach umbarchim otav Yitbarach shimcha befi kol chai Tamid leolam va'ed Baruch ata Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat.
As most of you know, I'm a pretty big theater nerd. So you can imagine I was pretty thrilled when I found out my Torah portion was actually the plot of one of my favorite musicals, Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. Now, I'll try not to break into song, but I will tell you about my Torah portion, for those of you who aren't as musical obsessed as me. I'll start by introducing a man named Jacob, who had 12 sons, called the 12 Sons of Israel. Jacob's favorite son was Joseph, and he spoiled Joseph a lot, which made all of Joseph's brothers hate him. Filled with jealousy, Joseph's brothers kidnapped him and sold him into slavery, then told his father he was dead. Pretty harsh, right? I mean, I've had some gripes with my brother, but I've never tried to sell him into slavery. Not yet. Anyway, Joseph ends up in Egypt as a slave, but after some mishaps, he finds himself in jail. There are two others in the jail, a cook and a butler for Pharaoh, and both have been having some strange dreams. Now, Joseph can actually interpret dreams, something his brothers always mocked him for. So Joseph tells the servants what their dreams mean, and later finds out that everything he had predicted came true. Pharaoh hears of this and brings Joseph to him, because Pharaoh had been having some weird dreams that he needed interpreted. Joseph tells Pharaoh what his dreams mean, saying that there will be 7 years of plenty, then 7 years of famine. Grateful that Joseph was able to interpret his dreams, Pharaoh put Joseph in charge of guiding Egypt through the famine, and basically made Joseph his right-hand man. Joseph successfully guides Egypt through the famine. Then one day, Joseph's starving brothers come to him, begging for food, not realizing Joseph is actually their long-lost brother. They grovel and beg for food, and Joseph decides to give them a chance to prove they've become better people. He hides a golden wine goblet in the youngest brother, Benjamin's, bag, then pretends to be furious that his goblet was stolen. He tries to throw Benjamin in jail, but all the brothers stand up for Benjamin, claiming that they stole that goblet. Joseph sees that his brothers have truly changed and did not throw Benjamin under the bus as they did to him. He forgives his brothers and gets to see his dad again. There are several messages that can be taken away from this story. My favorite part about it is that it has a happy ending, because not all stories in the Torah do. But it's not just about the happy ending. It's about the fact that Joseph made it a happy ending. He gave his brothers a chance. He didn't have to. Many people probably wouldn't. This great opportunity for revenge came knocking on Joseph's doorstep, and he could have easily thrown his brothers in jail or made them slaves. But instead, Joseph chose to test them, And by giving them that chance, he ended up realizing that they had changed and being reunited with his father again. Had he chosen the path of revenge, his father may have been lost to him forever. Not only did he give his brothers a second chance, but when he saw that they had changed, he forgave them. Forgiveness can seem simple sometimes, but I'm sure many of us understand just how hard it can be. Forgiveness isn't just important in this story. It's important in Judaism. In fact, our most important holiday is Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, where we apologize to those we've wronged and forgive those who've wronged us. And this applies to everyone. No matter who you are, forgiveness is important. Sometimes we have to be the better person and forgive, like Joseph. The story of Joseph is a good reminder of the power of second chances and forgiveness. That's why I think it's important to learn from the story of Joseph, because sometimes forgiveness can lead to your own happy ending. So, now that I'm almost done, I'll be honest. When my mom first brought up the idea of having a bat mitzvah, I was pretty reluctant at first. It's a lot of work, and it took some real thought to decide that this is something I wanted to commit myself to. But looking back, I am so glad I did, because it has been an incredible adventure from my first bat mitzvah lesson on April 14th to today, December 4th, standing in front of all of you up here on the bima. And there have been a lot of people who have helped me get here, so there are some thank yous I'd like to make. I'd like to thank Mora Angie for being my teacher for almost 9 months and teaching me so much of what I know so that I could lead this service today with her as my cantor. I'd like to thank Rabbi Zimmerman for working with me to prepare for today, giving me lots of opportunities to participate in Friday night services and leading the service with me today. I'd also like to thank him for letting me be the first to see our blow-up Hanukkah village and for always keeping plushies for me on hand to fidget with. I'd like to thank my grandparents and my uncle for coming out from California, Illinois, and Florida. It means a lot to me that you're here to share this day with me. I'd like to thank my brother Zachy for being so supportive of me through this all and participating in the service. I'd like to thank my dad. He has learned the ins and outs of this process along with me and supported me in my journey to become a bat mitzvah. I'd like to thank my mom for setting up the luncheon and the party and getting me to have a bat mitzvah in the first place. She's been my #1 cheerleader through this all and helped me so much. I'm so thankful for her. And finally, I'd like to thank everyone who is here today in person and everyone who's watching from home. I'm so glad I could share this special day with all of you. Thanks so much for everything.
Thank you. You did a great job, but I'm sure there are lots of people who'd love to say things, and maybe they'll get to over the weekend. But the people who get to have the last word today are your mom and dad, and we're going to call them up to share some prayers and words of blessing with you.
Okay, so I can't pass on the gifts of wisdom like the rabbi can on the subject, and I cannot give the gifts of grace, beauty, and eloquence that Julia can provide. So I'm left with a simple gift, the gift of brevity. And I want you to know I'm proud of both you and Zachy. I'm proud to be your father. I don't probably say it enough publicly. But it's definitely true. And today I'm provided with a rare opportunity to publicly praise and slightly embarrass you for the wonderful young woman you've become. So I'd just like you to take, or all of us, to take a moment and reflect on Madeline's past, her present, and her future. For the past, Madeline, I want you to remember what it took to get here. Okay? It took dedication. It took hard work. You learned to read and speak a different language, and even sing a different language. Your enthusiasm, your excitement, your thirst for knowledge and adventure are things which make you you. And these traits explain the success that you've had, and they're what make Madeline Madeline. And they will also predict your future successes. Now, I also want you to remember the present. These ceremonies are whirlwinds. So you're going to look back and this whole thing will have been a blur. So just take one moment just stop, pause, take a breath, look out there, look at all your friends, all your family. There's all the people on Zoom that came out to be this and celebrate with you. Just remember the delight and the jubilation of this event today. And finally, for the future, again, look at those family, those friends, those people on Zoom, and cherish them. Lean on them. There will be things to celebrate in your life, your triumphs, and they'll be there for them. They will also be there to soften the setbacks and the hardships that we all must face. So let's give thanks. Okay? I know that Madeline and Julie and I are immensely grateful for the opportunity to celebrate today with such a bounty of family and friends.
So I'm so grateful that you're all here. I'm so grateful for our friends and family that are watching from home. I am also, as Madeline put it, a theater nerd. So it seemed only appropriate to include quotes from a musical in my speech honoring her. And it wasn't hard to know where to begin. When I did my bat mitzvah many years ago, my dad gave a speech in which he quoted Henry Higgins from the musical My Fair Lady. Higgins proclaims, "Arabians learn Arabian with the speed of summer lightning, and the Hebrews learn it backwards, which is absolutely frightening." Hebrew is a bit frightening. For starters, Higgins is correct. Hebrew is read backwards. It is a language that uses a different alphabet than English. The letters appear like indecipherable symbols when you begin your studies. Vowels are represented by dots and lines. The chanting you have heard is all choreographed based on the different words and passages and represented with additional minute dashes that must be interpreted, known as the trope. Madeline has learned multiple blessings, a Haftarah portion, and a Torah portion. And when we read from the Torah, we don't use vowels at all. Over years of study and weekly private tutelage over the last year, Madeline has learned to lead a service, the meanings behind blessings we use at all services, and the importance of becoming a bat mitzvah. Madeline made the choice to become a bat mitzvah. It is a massive commitment to Hebrew study, and we wanted her to choose to make that personal commitment. Over the last year, Madeline has studied Hebrew every day. She has managed her tutoring sessions and her workload herself. In the last month, she has been at the temple 4 days a week, practicing, preparing, and gaining experience during her participation in Friday night services. Her commitment to her bat mitzvah is inspiring. I hope, Madeline, that accomplishing this goal has demonstrated to yourself that you are capable of achieving any goal you set for yourself. I am so proud of the young woman you are. I have already talked about your dedication to hard work, and this trait is important. However, I am most proud of the kind person you are. You are a dedicated daughter. I can always count on you to watch a movie with me, ride on the Vespa, walk on the beach, or just have a cup of tea. You are always up for an adventure. You are also a wonderful big sister, whether it's playing video games, cheering Zachy on as he passes the break at Del Mar for the first time, or checking his Spanish homework. He knows you have his back. You are also a dependable friend. Your friends know they can count on you for fun and definitely silliness, or when things are tough. You have a ready smile and a sunny outlook on life. You have been this way forever. When you were a toddler, strangers would take your picture because you were so joyful it was infectious. I know you will have a life filled with happiness because when things look dark, you find the joy. I'm going to end this speech with another quote from My Fair Lady that I think is perfectly suited to this moment. You did it. As sturdy as Gibraltar, not a second did you falter. There's no doubt about it. You did it.
So it's my privilege to sing something special for you today. I've been working with you since April. It's been a pleasure every week to watch you grow in your knowledge and dedication, and I hope that you are as proud of yourself today as I am of you. Shema B'ni, take these wings to fly with. Shema B'ti, with these roots you will grow. This is my promise, this is my blessing. You are the promise, and you are the blessing. May you live to see the wonder in this world and those yet to come, to care for those who came before you, to trust in those who are yet to come. Shema B'ni, Shim'i B'ti. May your heart be filled with wisdom. May your mind be filled with love. May your lips be filled with sweetness. May you shine like the stars above. So you shall fly on wings of eagles, and you will grow to be strong and tall. This is my promise, this is my blessing. You are the promise, and you are the blessing. Shema B'ni, Shim'i B'ti.
As we prepare to open the ark and return the Torah to the ark and ask God's blessing upon you, you can find the prayers for returning the Torah on page 374, 375. Please rise as we call your parents up to open the ark.
Shamayim, Vayarim Keren Le'amo, Tehila Lecho Chasida, Livnei Yisrael Ankerovo. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah,
So as we prepare to ask God's blessing upon you, just a couple words about this week's Torah portion that you read so beautifully, which is Miketz. It's the ending. I don't mean the ending of the service or the day. It's the ending of the time that Joseph is in prison. The very first words before you go are, Vayihi Miketz Shanatayim. It was the end of 2 years, which makes us pause for a minute, because in my mind in the story, he tells everybody their dreams, and they run to Pharaoh, and Pharaoh hears the dreams, and Joseph gets out of jail. But in fact, after Joseph tells the baker what his dream means, nobody tells anyone else. They just keep it a secret. Joseph sits in prison for 2 more years, not knowing what will happen to him, until finally someone says, hey, I know this guy, he can interpret dreams. Let's let him out of jail to talk to Pharaoh. That could have really changed Joseph, and it does change Joseph. He grows, but as you point out in your speech, he grows better. He forgives his brothers, he helps the Egyptians, he becomes a real leader. The last few years were challenging for a lot of reasons for a lot of different people. Everybody grew. Some people ate a lot of cookies, they grew one way. Some people got bitter. It was hard not to be. They grew another way. Your energy and your joy and your love of Judaism and life and people and inflatable balloons and dancing and being a good sport just brings joy to people. It is infectious. It's a good infectious after the last 2 years. A good one. We want to use that word in a positive way. So our prayer for you is that as you learn and as you grow and as you experience things in life, some which will be joyous, some which won't be, as you get smarter and kinder, you think of Joseph and you say, how can I bring the essence of who I am, but an even more better, loving, kind way to this world who needs it. And so we ask God's blessing upon you with words that come from the Torah, but I get to say them today. Yivarecha Adonai v'yishmerecha, Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'chunecha, Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasim lecha shalom. Madeline, Maddie, as you go from this day into your life, we pray with you and your family that God will bless you, that God will look after you, that you will feel God's presence in your life with all the blessings you need, the love of your family, the support and love of your brother, all the best blessings from everybody here, that you will feel God's presence in your life, and in the journeys you take, you will know family, community, support, joy, and shalom, that you will feel peace all the days of your life. Amen. We're going to continue on page 586 with the Aleinu. Stay on this way Please remain standing another moment. As we turn to page 598, we come to the Mourner's Kaddish a word about this prayer that speaks only of life and hope and praise of God in our most challenging moments, but is the prayer the Jews say when they remember people who've passed away. And you might think, in every Jewish service they say this prayer, but even now, even at a time filled with nothing but joy, but we say even more so now, for we know that our moments of joy are on the shoulders of people who came before us, some whom we know, some whom we've never met, some for whom we carry names or recipes or journeys. Because of them we are here. And so we turn to 598. We remember those who have come before us but who have passed. For those watching at home, if you are saying Kaddish and have a yortzeit, an anniversary of a death, our prayers are with you as well as we look to the mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei rabbah, bi'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chaye echon uv'yom echon uv'chaye d'chol beit Yisrael, ba'agalal v'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehi shmei rabbah mevorach le'olam ul'olmei al-maya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitba'ar v'yitroma v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitala shmeid kudsha brichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechemata. Da'amiram bi'almal v'imru. Amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya. V'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael. V'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav. Hu yaseh shalom. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael. V'imru. Amen. May God, who brings peace, bring wholeness and peace to all who are in mourning. And let us say, Amen. You may be seated. All of us have words of congratulations, but don't worry, only one more person gets to share them, and that is our president on behalf of the congregation. Stay right here. Right here.
Wow. After our talk yesterday, it seems that I have to keep the theatrical theme going. Well, today's production was very well rehearsed and extremely well performed. The musician in me wants to tell you also you got a beautiful voice, so keep it up. So again, congratulations, and I know how proud your family must be. As president of the congregation, I get the honor of coming to all the bar and bat mitzvahs and to observe our young people continuing our Jewish traditions. And it really is the highlight of being president of a congregation. And along with that, I get to give you some gifts, so I get to give out the stuff. The first thing, and probably the most important, is the certificate signed by the rabbi and me that shows that you did this. Secondly, the National Federation of Temple Youth is giving you a certificate that's worth $250 towards a trip to Israel. The Fort Worth Federation of Temple Youth is planting a tree in Israel for you. Our brotherhood, the Men of Reformed Judaism, is giving you a book on the doorposts of your house. The sisterhood, the Women of Reformed Judaism, will be giving you some candlesticks, but they're going through a supply chain problem right now. And they're not here, but they're coming, and you'll get that. And lastly, the Tarrant County Federation of Jewish Federation is giving you a tzedakah box as a remembrance of today. So, Madeline, you did a beautiful job. I am so proud to have been here and part of it. Congratulations, dear.
Following our service, we invite you to join the family in the social hall for lunch. Obviously, once you're eating, feel free, I guess, take off your masks. It would be kind of hard without it. But thank you for being respectful of the family and keeping those on. But yes, please do come and join the family. And you can get to our social hall by either going right and then left or just following everybody else. Who knows? So our closing song is Oseh Shalom, which is the final words of the mourner's Kaddish, but also all Kaddish sanctification prayers. May God, who brings wholeness here on this day and joy, bring it to us always. We join together in Oseh Shalom.
Oseh Shalom b'mroma, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'imru, amen. Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. Oseh Shalom b'mroma, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'imru, amen.
And thank you, Angie, for all your help tutoring the students, your beautiful voice. Angie helps us conclude Shabbat with Havdalah at 6 o'clock all year round on Zoom. So if any of you are guests, say, I'd love to see how Shabbat has ended and hear Angie's voice. Let me know and we'll get you the Zoom link any Saturday night. We conclude with one more. He gets to have the final word. Your brother Zachy is going to lead us in the blessing over bread, which means when you go to eat, you don't have to wait for anything. So there we go. The blessing over bread, the motzi. We have a real one too, but that's very nice. Although you can try to take a bite out of that. I don't think it's going to work so well. So I'm going to ask the congregation to please rise. We thank God for bread and all that it represents, the sustenance and joys of our life. Here we go. Ready?
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam.
Hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. And Shabbat Shalom.